election season is starting to pick up. There was a debate the other night,
Mm.
first GOP debate, and this is not a partisan show, obviously, but at least from this side, we try to evaluate everything on sort of a case by case basis. Try to just take everything, on its own. Try to sort of look at everything from 20,000 feet, just kind of evaluating everything. Not trying to make any big political statements here, but with the Republican debate the other night, I did want to ask if it seems like in America here we've been doing this Democrat Republican thing for a long time. Like these have just been the two sides of the political aisle for a long time. And if you kind of go through some of the races, like most of American history, there's always been like weird parties involved and people flipping around. So we've kind of been stuck with these two teams for a while. And I just wonder at this point, like, as that party, for if you're just like, if you're a candidate and you're more, fiscally conservative and you want to run more on that side, does having the Republican tag have any value now after Trump has been the nominee for that party? Because it seems like has that party just become too Trump? And if is he going to slow down any other, just like him being associated with the Republican Party, like any like other sort of on the fence people? Just if there was a candidate but he's in the party that Trump is in, like would it just be better off to be independent or do your own thing? Like has he do you think he's tarnished that label to the point where it would affect another candidate?
I mean, I think
Do you think
he's
he's
just.
tarnished it at all, I guess? I don't know. Well,
I think he's just. Right now, he's just the big behemoth that is, for the Republicans. And I think it's brought in a lot of people who may not normally vote Republican, people who may be on the more extreme sides of ideology. And, and it's definitely pushed out a lot of the more centrists and just made a way bigger gap. And while, it's been something that has always been there, there's always been a gap between Democratic and Democratic and Republican policies. I think having Trump there, it's just has definitely widened the gap to the point where, I personally think there is space for a legitimate third party in the middle. We definitely
yeah.
need to break up this two-party system. And I think most people are just, I think most people are tired of just it going back and forth of the seeming, inefficiency, no matter what side you are. I think there's major issues on both sides. And I think people just want a government that's run well. I don't know if we want necessarily culture wars, if we need the government, telling us what to do. We just kind of want not to pay a cajillion dollars for healthcare, and be able to have a sustainable, standard of living. And that's not what's going on right now. I mean, I think it's pretty clear from the numbers that the gap between, the very, very rich and everyone else is just continuing to expand at a ridiculous rate, no matter what side of the aisle you are on. And the solution to fixing that is obviously different with everyone, with different people. But I think trying to come to a compromise has become progressively harder just because of all the different culture stuff and people's personal and religious beliefs are now getting all thrown into it. And now the government's deciding that. And now then I think that's pushing away a lot of people from trying to find, practical solutions for other stuff that the government should actually be in charge of. Like, do I have to pay what am I paying my taxes for if the healthcare system is still privatized? What am I, stuff like that. I think it's just having basic needs and services are not getting paid. There's still tolls on the road, even though I'm paying for road stuff. So I'm just saying, there's just a lot of question marks where not trying to become, Samson for 2024, but I think there's a lot of question marks for in terms of where this tax dollars are going to. And once we start looking at it, you start seeing that hundreds of millions of dollars are going into our defense departments unmarked, that are just disappearing. There's hundreds of millions of dollars. We just don't know where they're going. Trillions of dollars
I'm
over the
sure
last couple
more.
of decades. Black books just gone. Just gone. And shout out to the military for, making the internet, their research is what started to lead to the computer development, computers and internet and a lot of other advances. But there's just too much money going into military and stuff like that that's just secret that we just don't know where it is. And it's one of the most interesting facts is that I'm trying to remember, I think it was at least $1 trillion disappeared on 9/10/2001. There was
I know this
undergrad story.
I know what story you're talking about.
Yeah. And then we all know what happened the day after. So like there's just so many things when we look at what defense spending and military spending and just hundreds of millions of dollars is gone. And we know absolute power corrupts absolutely, especially in the dark. And so, it's time to open the books. I think there's just too much money going into places that we don't know about when we have, people clearly starving and the gap widening between the middle class and everyone else. And, I think moving to a higher populated area, no nonsense to Iowa, but moving to an area like California in somewhere where there are more people living and just the ridiculous standard of living, it's expensive, man. And it's crazy. And it sucks. So I think most people are just kind of sick and tired of paying a lot for not getting much back from the government. And, I think a lot of stuff that, people on the fringes bring up because they're the loudest, a lot of stuff in the news is just a lot of distractions while BlackRock and Vanguard and all of them keep taking our money and run the world because that's what they want to do. And they're going to keep doing it.
And just from like a strategic side from these candidates, like you made the key point with the centrists where, I mean, this is where you win the election. There's only so many extremists on each side. Most people are in the middle. You got to try to sway as many middle people as possible. And this might be the one where middle people just don't have anywhere to turn to because, again, like I just don't know. We're not picking sides here. You can pull up our voting records from last year and see where we voted. We're fine, but I just like who's the left gonna throw out that's I just don't know any names, and if Biden's gonna be the lead guy, he is just he's an older guy at this point, and you got and the right is just the party of Trump, and I don't know how many people are gonna want to be associated with that, and it's not like they're have a murderer's row of candidates to throw out there as well, so. This has always been, especially with the two-party system, a country that's always been like, these like dramatic swings every election, sort of overreacting and overcorrecting. And I'm trying to figure out where the overcorrection is at this year because it was, Trump was his own craziness. Let's swing back to try to get, the most vanilla politician we possibly can. Let's get Biden in there. And like you're saying, the thing has become so split now that do the centrists want to even go to either side at this point? And I don't know where the overreaction is. Is it age? Is it just like, hey, let's vote for a young person this time? Or is it like you're saying, is there actually going to be a room if, somebody had the ability to sort of fund their own thing and sort of do their own thing and could exist in that third party thing? I mean, you start actually getting into Capitol Hill and not being on a side and actually trying to get stuff done that way. Maybe you have, you run into issues not being in a side when you actually get into the election. But again, just strategically trying to win this thing, like this, I think you're right. I think this does feel like a time that if an independent person or somebody was trying to be that independent, somebody was running with that independent tag, I think they'd be about as viable as ever with the political climate, just because I don't know where people necessarily want to swing to for this election cycle. I just don't know what the crazy overreaction is going to be.
Yeah, and I think that's totally true. I think in a perfect world, I think there would be a lot more different candidates. I think there'd be a lot more different options than the two. I think the problem is that the the thing that, I guess pretty much going into a little bit of my ideology, but I think right now with the way capitalism has worked, it has worked.
Mhm.
People, there was a competitive market at one point in time where different companies were all competing to make money. But the thing is that eventually, because it's competitive, one idea is going to win out. And so clearly, one kind of company has won out. One kind of, or a group
Mm.
of companies have won out, and they keep getting bigger and getting more money, getting more influence, and getting more power. And so now it's at the point where they can do literally whatever they want. And so now the system has been set for them to continue winning, continue getting these more profits. And so no matter what people do to break the system, it's not, I mean, unless you totally overhaul it, it's not going to fix itself. And it's I think one of the best quotes I've ever heard, which it was more referring, it was a quote from the slavery times, and people trying to abolish slavery. And the quote was is that the master's tools are not going to tear down the master's house. And
Mm.
we could try all we want to, and we should go out and vote. We should definitely go out and vote. I think we definitely should have
Absolutely.
conversations and discussions. But I think at some point people got to realize that there's a reason why with social media and the way it is, there's a reason why certain candidates get to where they are, and it's not just because of people's interest in them, it's because of advertising. It's because of, and there's underlying stuff of, we've seen the way that these companies can control, Vanguard and BlackRock, and we keep going to them, but they just have a stupid amount of money, and there's no way they're just sitting there and being like, all right, we're not going to do anything to try to keep running it up, and the lobbying and things. So there's a small group of ultra rich people who have shown that they are very clearly in control, and it's people we don't know, and that's why they're still so powerful. And it's very clear that they're controlling everything that's going on right now. And this is a little bit of crazy Sam, Uncle Sam, talk. We obviously, you're not saying you endorse any of it, but I'm just saying that, personally for me, it's just looking at where the nation is headed. It just feels like it's definitely headed downward spiral. No matter what side you are on, because because capitalism has worked. The most strong has won, and they're going to continue to win. And we saw this most clearly with COVID. I mean, just the amount that the gap of people who are already rich getting richer, it was just a catalyst for what is going to continue to happen. And the gap is going to continue to grow between the super rich and the middle class as they continue to squeeze out money. And it just is, and it's I don't think it's a hot take. I think it's something that's going to continue to happen, and it's. I mean, I'm not I'm going to flip a table and get super mad about it. It just is, and it's I don't really see. I mean, I don't really see a way out of it unless totally overhauling the system, which. By keeping this two-party system and focusing on the culture wars and people's personal beliefs, it continues to keep us divided and not, band together and be like, hey, this sucks. Why don't we change it? Instead, it's, all these other issues that, may be that only when you look at the statistics, only really affect a small minority of the total population. I mean, when you look at the issues such as abortion, such as, same-sex marriage, things like that. Most of those cases are a minority of the population. No matter what you believe, whether it's right or wrong, it's still not a majority of the people. It's not a huge, even with immigration, that's still a minority of the people. So I think focusing on these small issues and then keeping people split is how they've stayed in power and how they're going to continue to stay in power. And so, it's all to make more money, and that's the bottom line with these guys at the end of the day, and it just is. It sucks. Sorry to turn this sports pod into a depressing America's gonna end pod, but it just is.
Like you were saying, the ideologies themselves have become so extreme either way that it just feels like less voters now are represented with, sort of the candidates and who's being thrown out there and what the parties are necessarily like presenting as the big issues. You're right. It just feels like the things that the people want are not necessarily the things that the politicians are bringing to the table. And it seems like, the ideologies have sort of condensed into the 2 or 3 big issues. And it's mainly those things. And they're both like clearly on the other end of the aisle. And then, 98% of the people just go, well, wait, where's the candidate that, like you're saying, it does feel like the last couple elections have been over, it hasn't been necessarily over the functioning of the country, necessarily over the personalities and the sides that are, going after each other. I think you're right necessarily saying that, I think that's what's been happening. And I don't, is the correction, an independent, somebody who's independent, somebody who, like you're saying, it's just like, hey, let's just sort of get everything functioning and fix sort of the home problem stuff. But I mean, the thing is with these elections, history has shown big swings. So just, trying to predict where's that big swing going to be, I don't know. And I just don't know where the voters this year necessarily turn to. But we'll see. It's very early. It's very early. We don't even necessarily know who's going to be doing it. But Sam, are we too young to be doing the world is ending?
I don't know. We're voting, and we're gonna be having to deal with it.
We're like one vote in.
Wild. I don't even know, man.
We're like,
I don't know.
What, 2 elections in? How many have you voted in? 1 or 2?
I've voted in one presidential one, but I voted in
that's right.
Other ones, yeah. I don't know. I mean, when I was at the news station, we interviewed at one point Vivek. I'm not even gonna try to get his last name Ramaswamy, but one of the more outspoken political candidates who was on the stage for that campaign. And, during our conversation, we didn't talk about, the Ukraine war. Didn't talk about, the climate change. Didn't talk about, how we're going to feed the homeless. Talk about all the other, stuff. So it's just something to watch out for, What about, in my opinion, I think a good majority of people just want to have health care. They just want to live, want to have food on the table.
It's sort of like the Madden gameplay. Just keep it simple,
Just keep it simple. Like, can I not, get gouged out of my paycheck, please? It's wild.
Rem and Sam, what is CNN? Holy cow!
I know. Yeah.
We'll have to find a name for the
Rem and Sam Corporation does not endorse this message. I don't know. I mean,
we're gonna have to find a name for the political corner.
Yeah.
Was that the piercing truth?
Maybe.
It was piercing. Who knows if it was truth?
Yeah, I don't know. Our opinion. Truth. Did you have any piercing truth you really wanted to?
I mean, I've. There's a bunch we could go through. The NBA account got hacked this week.
Oh yeah, that was kind of sad.
That was funny. Stan Van Gundy said that there's no way you could say Anthony Davis had a better career than Dwight Howard. I don't know if you saw that.
Do you think that's true? I don't know. It is true.
Anthony Davis won a title.
Oh, he's saying there's no way you couldn't, or you could say.
Yeah, he's saying Dwight Howard is clearly better than Anthony Davis.
Wait, Steph or Jeff Van Gundy?
Stan.
Oh, Stan. Didn't he coach him? He coached him.
He did.
He was okay. Well, he's just biased.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
Like he coached him. He's the one that took him to the conference, into the finals.
Did Dwight Howard make the NBA 75 team? Because Anthony Davis did. So I mean, immediately then.
Yeah.
It's like Stan will just look at the list. I mean, Anthony Davis is the top 75 player, and Dwight Howard is not. So Stan Van Gundy.
Okay, but is Anthony Davis gonna be in the Taiwan Hall of Fame though?
Well, that is true. Taiwanese. I guess you
he's
make
not.
The case. Howard?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, he's not.
That's crazy. I don't know. That's crazy. All right, AD's in. There you go.
There is some people saying that they would take LeBron in a fight versus Mike Tyson. Okay. LeBron's 6'9". That's the only thing.
All right.
Is he 6'9"? But Mike Tyson, I mean, come on.
Yeah, like, what are we doing?